Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Bob Rogers doing a video interview. And this time I'm doing a video interview with one of the grand old men of the ULD industry, Dani Sudan, who, gosh, I cannot remember when I first met Dani, but it's a long time ago, and we probably both didn't have so much white hair. So anyway, this is more of a fireside chat. Dani is now comfortably retired in Switzerland and put his ULD days behind him. But I thought it would be nice for everybody to have a chance to hear a little bit of one person's history in this amazing industry. So Dani, could I turn this over to you and ask you to tell us and the audience a little bit about your history in the ULD business? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. Yes, soon I will be 74 years old. Since 10 years retired, but my heart still claps for the ULDs. Somebody in the past told me that I don't have a heart in my breast. I have an ULD in my breast. I don't think I would share this with my wife, but anyway. Okay, general, I started in 1968 as a ramp worker in the Swissair airline at that time. And I learned it really from the bottom up, loading, unloading aircrafts, no carrying ULDs, but carrying baggage, mail, and anything else like live animals and so on. And this, of course, with airplanes like Caravelle, like Comet, and like this ULDs where you have really to go into like a snake. You have to be very flexible to do that. Later on, I passed a little bit on different eras in the Swiss world. I mean, I was after I was a supervisor on the ramp. I was for a short time in Swissair Cargo, manifesting, controlling everything, measuring the load sheets, and so on. Later on, I changed over to the passenger department, lost and found. This was a challenge, sometimes not really easy. But later on, I went back to cargo. And after a certain time, one of my boss approached me and asking, Dani, would you be prepared to have to look for a new challenge? And I said, it's depending what you offer me. And I said, yeah, you have seen we have started a few weeks ago with the 747 in our network. And you maybe have recognized that there are some cans and pallets on these airplanes. And there is a man already working on that. This was Fred Flückiger, maybe somebody known here. He later on passed away. But anyway, I said, yeah, why not? Let's see and let's start. So in 1976, I started with Fred Flückiger. We worked 7 days, 2 persons, 7 days. This was a real challenge. But anyway, we done this very good. After a certain time, we also introduced computer-aided process. Before that, we have done everything manually by SITA-text, by TTY, in the beginning by typing like on a typewriter, and you have to be very careful not making any mistake on the MC messages, who was directly going on to Montreal headquarters of IATA to, what was his name? Mike Nenadovic at that time. And yes, later on, CETA text and everything. Then, of course, the world changed. Fred Flückiger died, he passed away. And so I stepped into his duties. I was representing Swissair in the user group. And yeah, we had a lot of challenging time, but I have to say the user group was a very, very good, efficient group. We have discussed together, we found solution, we trusted everybody. And so there was not really, how should I say, a complicated work anyway. What I learned at that time was also that all these ULD managers, they were really 100% in her duty. The discussion was really on the ground. We have also very much been supported by manufacturers like Swiss, like Nordisk, like Brambles, like Milocco, and whatever. What was very interesting for us, of course, because we learned ULD from another side, how to manage them and so on. Later on, we have made a study based to find a better solution on the IT software. And Swissair at that time, that was before it went bankruptcy in 2001, we made a really good study where from the manufacturing of ULD till to the scrapping of ULD with all the possibilities, brokers, truckers, airline, sea forwarder, everything was included then. We called in the EMS project, Equipment Management System. But because Swissair went down, the project went down too. Very sad. Later on, yeah, it was a difficult time, of course. Everybody was surprised that this airline really went down, but on the other side, it makes us thinking about other solutions, because at that time, I was not in favor to see that other companies are affected on the mismanagement in this area. As we already started in a so-called mini pooling with 6 different airlines, my idea of pooling was starting much more earlier. It started in 1978 already, in a mini pooling with Bel Air at that time, and later on Aris and some other companies joined. And then we made a big studies later on about ULD pooling with the big player. The big player was Lufthansa. We found out that there was a synergy potential about 40 to 50%. And this also related because when I went out at Zurich to making inventory for not only our ULD park, but also all others, checking about their worthiness and everything, and then communicate with these airlines, telling them what is okay, what is not okay, are the nets damaged or are they not airworthy anymore, and then I find the storage place that they use is so extremely high that with 40% less storage place, that would be also very much interesting to airports because of storage area. Not only for the airline, because let's say you have a stock of 14 LH3 and you can manage this via 3 different airlines by having for everyone only 7 ULDs that they need to pay for it. then it would be also a big benefit for these member airlines. It was a hard time, but it started to fly. So this was a little bit about my history till this date, until I was retired. I went into early retirement because I had some troubles with my eyes. At the end of my ULD lifetime, I could not read anymore, and I was mostly blind. But after a challenging operation to my eyes, everything went back, and then now it's more or less okay. That was a little bit about my ULD career within the airline industry.
Oh, thank you very much, Dani, because I mean, I think a few of us do remember you, but an awful lot of people probably came along later. So it's wonderful to hear how this industry got started. And of course, if I'm right, the first pooling organization was Globe Pool. Was that right?
The first pooling organization was already within the Swiss Air.
Right.
By having little companies, but this was just a hidden pooling,
Okay.
not an official. Official one was Globe Pool.
That's right.
That was Globe Pool was in the 2002.
Oh, that was after Swiss Air, right? Yes, yes.
That was after the Swiss Air. That was the really Swiss decided to how you say this, source this business out,
Yep.
still within the group, but not as an airline organization anymore. So we have been so-called as Air Logistics at that time. And this was the starting of the pooling. The first pooling actually was by introducing the Airbus 320 family within Swiss Air. And this was together with Lufthansa. Jetliner was at that time not existing. But of course, with the assistance of Lufthansa, Swiss Air was able to place about between 300 and 400 LD45 within this network as a gentleman agreement, no cost at all. And this was really, and everybody was very much surprised that I have been able, with good cooperation with Lufthansa and Austrian Airlines later on, to manage this one. And this, of course, also brought Lufthansa off the idea, okay, let's make a pooling company. And this was then the idea to create Jetliner.
Wonderful stories, Dani. We could probably go on for a long time. But coming back, you mentioned the IULDUG earlier on in your history. And I know you were very, very, very much at the forefront. Have you got any recollections, shall I say, about, because one thing that I constantly say to people, that here we are 50 years later. I mean, the IULDUG was a product of the early 70s, and here we are in the 2020s. The concept was dreamed up 50 years ago, and yet it is still as valid today as it was then. Have you got any observations about how it came to be such a successful venture?
Oh, that's difficult to answer. I think it's very simple. It usually is a part of the aircraft. Every ULD has a certain kind of certification, and this is going on with the aircraft. Still, ULDs was carried. Also today, 50 years later, and it's still valid. I think the only big difference between the starting point and today is ULDs are less heavy. And what is a little bit for me disappointing is that nobody wants to pay for it. It's not like in the area of the sea cargo, where when you want to have a 20 or a 44 container, first you raise some dollars, put on the table, and then you get it. Not in the airline world. And this is something that still is going on since 50 years, and I don't know what must be happened that this turns into a reality who you can say, okay, it's not just a piece of metal, it's a part of the aircraft.
Yeah. Well, yes, you are indeed talking about a major challenge there, increasingly so in recent months in the aftermath of COVID, where so many new people are now involved in the ground handling processes. Dani, it's lovely to be able to talk to you and for people to learn a little bit about the history. And from what you tell me, you would happily do it all again. Would that be right?
If I could restart the business 50 years ago, anytime.
Well, that's the ULD world for you, isn't it? It's funny how many people, for many people, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. That's the way it is. Dani, I think the clock's probably running down on us, so I'm going to bring this to an end. Thank you very, very much for taking a little bit of time here to share some of your experiences. I'm sure our audience will very much appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It was nice to talk to you and give you a little bit of my ULD life. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Earth.